Do you wish that you had done anything differently?
Uh, a few, too few to mention, as Sinatra put it. You know, I don't have kids, and for a while there, I was like, oh, I definitely have to have some kids.
You know Mike Rowe, but do you really know him? You are about to get to know him like you've never known him before. I'm Kara. I used to be a therapist. So when I talk to somebody, I really like to talk to them. Let's go.
To me, when that job became fun was when I stopped trying to sell the product and amuse the viewer and focused instead on amusing myself. I learned that on QVC, and I remembered it years later on Dirty Jobs. You know, the trick to that show was to amuse myself, the person I was with, and my crew. And once we got that down, then the viewers of the show, they felt less like viewers and more like people who were along for the ride.
Right. So
And
I'll
that's the
tell you
trick.
what, too. What I did before when I knew I was going to talk to you in a couple days, I was like, let me see what Mike's fans think about Mike. What do they want to know about Mike? What do they think? What's their approach? What's their relationship with Mike? And I have to tell you, yeah, what do you think I discovered?
I look, if you went to my Facebook page, you found 6 million people with varying opinions. I mean, it's a biased crowd, but most of those people are there because I did something that they like. Um, but I don't know. What did you find?
So I think it's more than that you did something you that they like. I think they really feel like they know you. It's like what you're
No.
saying. I feel like they really 100% they know Mike Rowe and they know him personally. Like that's how they feel. So there's something that you're conveying and it's interesting because when you said that that's what you learned from QVC and applied on Dirty Jobs, I think that may be why they feel that way because you just were you having fun back and forth with the people who you're actually working with and they got to just tag along and feel like they're there with you.
Well, thanks. And I do think that's a part of it, but I also think the way we shot Dirty Jobs was very, very different. And it's the same way we shoot 6 Degrees. We always have a behind the scenes camera that's wide and shooting everything all the time. And I always know that that camera's on. And so when we stop a scene or when we have to break for any number of reasons, that camera still rolls. And in those moments, I'll walk up to that camera and I'll tell the viewer the truth about whatever's going on in that moment. That level of disclosure
Yeah.
was really unusual on nonfiction television.
Mhm.
Um, and the more we did it, the more permission we got to do virtually anything we wanted. The other thing that really helped me a lot and mattered a lot later was that on Dirty Jobs, we never did a second take. Um, we never did any pre-production. We never did any writing. We never did any casting. You know, we never told, you know, the artificial inseminator where to look or where to sit or how to do their job. It was we were flies on walls, you know. And my feeling was take two is a performance because it's just an attempt to repeat what you did in take one. And so I just didn't want to do that kind of a show. And the viewer realized that too. And so they knew that for better or worse, what they were watching and what they were seeing was exactly what I saw on the turkey farm the
Yeah,
day
yeah.
I showed up. And so
It's real. It's real.
it's
Right. It's
real.
as
I mean,
real as you're going to get. And that's right. That's
yes.
again, the connection is who you really are. You're presenting who you really are. And that's part of it. So I'll get into that after. I want to tell you about some of those Facebook fans because, yeah, you have like a ravenous Facebook fan population out there and it's huge. I mean, you got onto Facebook what at the beginning or?
No, I was late to the party.
Oh, okay.
I'd like 2010, 2011 maybe.
Yeah.
But what I did do at the very beginning of Dirty Jobs in 2003 the network called and said, look, we want to build a chat room, which struck me as super creepy. Like, but we
Yeah.
think, you know, we want fans of our shows to have a place to go to talk about the show. And it would be nice if you kind of weighed in once in a while. I said, all right, whatever. Well, what happened was out in the world, you know, doing a dirty job, you go back to the Motel 6 or the Super 8 or, you know, wherever you're staying and you're tired and you open the mini bar, you get a beer or whatever, you sit down and you get in this chat room and you start really chatting with viewers. And I didn't think I'd like it, but I actually loved it. And from that chat room emerged all the ideas for season 2. And so I realized before Facebook, back when Zuckerberg was still in college, I guess, that if you let the viewer program the show, they're going to be way, way more engaged than they otherwise would. And if you let them host the show, which is how I always thought of Dirty Jobs, I was the guest, you know, the viewer, the subject was the host, you know, and so everything was slightly skewed from the normal model. But when the dust settled, it was a show that allowed me to say, look, this show is produced, programmed, and hosted by the people who watch it. I'm just an avatar. And that, you know, that really stuck. And so later when I got on Facebook, that lesson had deeply landed. And I realized, oh man, this is so much bigger than a chat room.
Right.
So, yeah, there's 6 million people on my page right now.
That's so right. That's so interesting. And especially because Facebook is sort of, you know, like Facebook is the old platform. And, you know, there's a lot of controversy about Facebook. And it's going strong for you for sure. There's no question about it.
You know, I do a show for Facebook called
Yeah,
Return to
right.
Favor.
Right.
It airs on, the thing's been downloaded 400 million times.
Yeah, that's wild. But again, everything's
I won
changing.
an Emmy. I won an Emmy for a show that's not even
Congrats.
on TV. I don't even, how much weirder does the world
Look, the
get?
times are changing, but that's, you know, you're obviously going with it. You're trying new things, doing different things. Discovery Plus, that's a whole new thing too. I mean, that's like, you know, everybody's got a streaming network, but I really feel like it's happening for a reason, you know, and then people can get what they want. So there are, I'm sure, tons of people who are going to love Discovery Plus. It's exactly more of what they already love. It's perfect all in one place. So,
Yeah.
and your show is going to be on that.
Yep.
The whole landscape is different. I have some serious questions I would like to ask you.
Sure.
Deep questions. I'd like to go a little bit deep.
Oh boy.
Oh, what did you just write?
I just wrote going deep.
Look like a check mark.
Sometimes I just doodle crap. You know, I just sit here and I wasn't writing anything. I was doing the classic news anchor move, you know?
Right.
Mike Rowe here, signing off. We'll see you tomorrow. And then I just turn down and write and nothing.
I love it. Then you whisper to the person next to you and say nothing. I got
nothing.
It. Right.
Or something deeply inappropriate.
Right. Maybe not these days. Maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah, right.
So any regrets in life? Do you wish that you had done anything differently?
A few, too few to mention, as Sinatra put it. You know, I don't have kids. And for a while there, I was like, oh, I definitely have to have some kids. And then I really, you know, got to know the kids that my friends had. And I don't want kids. So I didn't have kids. And sometimes I think I should have, maybe I'll adopt one. But it's not a regret. It's just a choice, you know. Career-wise, no, I don't have any regrets at all. Mm-hmm. I guess, you know, I mean, I've lived in like 20 states and there's some places I would have liked to have stayed longer. And there were some places I probably never should have gone. You know, I was a hobo from 1993 until 2001. Lived in hotels, lived in, studios, you know, recording studios. I mean, it's a good life. I'm not complaining about it, but I was very, very, very transient for a long time. Not a regret, but it was just kind of a weird time in my life. And I'm not, I'm not sure it was really time well spent, but not a regret.
Right, right. That's so interesting. Right. So it's like you reflect on them and you wonder, but you don't necessarily regret.
I had fictitious, there's a fictitious character called Travis McGee who stars in 22 amazing pulp fiction novels. In fact, right over here, I'll show you. This guy, John D. McDonald, wrote the best pulp fiction ever. And he created a character named Travis McGee who lived on a houseboat down in Bahia Mar, Florida, and basically solved crimes. He was just this boat bum who had a great philosophy of the world. And one of the things that he did in life, his fictitious life, was take his retirement early and in installments. So when he was in his 20s, 30s, and 40s, he would always take a couple of months off in between adventures. And I just remember being so enamored of that lifestyle that I actually embraced it. When I left QVC, fired for the third time, I started taking jobs that let me travel and I started freelancing. And in between the jobs, I would basically just goof off for a couple of months. And I I looked at it as, all right, you're going to wind up working for the rest of your life. You might as well
Right.
enjoy your retirement in little chunks now, just like Travis McGee. So, do I regret those years? No, I don't. But I
Yeah.
really do wonder what I might have done had I actually sat down and applied the work ethic that my foundation today is so focused on.
Right. But see, here's the thing. I think that what would be much more common is if you didn't live like that for that period of time, you would regret it. Right. I think that if anything, people look back at times when they didn't try something like that, or they didn't run free, or they didn't follow their passion. And that's what they regret. So I think it's not surprising that you don't regret it. And if you didn't do it, I think you might have regretted it.
It's just greener grass,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well,
The grass is
always.
always greener. It doesn't matter what you do. But I'll
So,
tell you, go ahead.
a question. Okay, so what about the kids? At what point did you think to yourself, should I adopt, should I have kids? Is this something that I should be thinking about, or do I want? What was that process like?
It was a long time ago, and I was with a girl at the time who was absolutely sure she wanted them, and that made me look at our relationship, in a way that I wouldn't have otherwise. I didn't want to be unfair to her. She was, I mean, we were in love, but she was very clear. I'm on this earth to have 2 to 4 kids, and I want you to be the father. And yeah, I just remember thinking, wow, you want me to be the father before you want me to be your husband.
Oh, that's interesting. So
Somebody asked
that,
me
yeah.
s- somebody asked me the other day about my parents. My dad's 88, my mom's 83. They're still together, they're still vibrant, they're still doing what they do. And they said, they asked me what their secret was. I'm like, I don't know if they had a secret, but there was something that my dad was very clear about to my brothers and I as we were growing up. It was very clear to us that he loved us. He loved us a lot, and he would do virtually anything for us, but he loved his wife more.
Oh, it's so interesting. Okay, that was clear.
Crystal clear. And so clear that it didn't strike me as strange growing up. It was just the way it was. Dad loves mom, and then he goes away and makes money so mom can raise us. And this is how it works. Dad also loves us, but dad loves mom first. And when I look around today at so many of my friends who are raising their kids, I'm really struck often by the fact that the kid has become the most important thing in the household. the kid has become the most important thing to the parent instead of the spouse. So I was
That's
lucky.
it. Yeah, that is interesting. And I do think that's, that's part of a product of the times of how everything with the prioritization of kids, the helicopter parenting, all of that together, it's sort of like upside down, right? I remember a time when I was at my son's soccer game. I don't remember how old he was. He was little. And I remember all the parents were on the sidelines just watching these kids. And the field was like a little bit raised compared to the seats. We all brought our own little like carry-in seats. And I
Yeah.
remember like looking around thinking, this is really like fundamentally upside down, that we're all here looking at, cheering on, like the people who are the big focus are the kids, these little kids. And it was really just that activity in and of itself would be harmless, I'm sure, fine, but it was representative of what's kind of going on all over the place in all, like you're saying, in the house, outside of the house, activities, whatever else. I do think that's a thing that it never was before.
No. And it's like the frog in the boiling water. It just got worse and worse. Like after the soccer game, not only are people still staring at the kids, they're applauding as every one of them gets the trophy, right? And every, they to grow up certain that you're the center of the universe.
Yeah, that's
Well,
tough.
I mean, I guess maybe it's good for self-esteem to some point, but no, that's not the way we were raised. It was,
Right.
you're not the center of the universe. Mike, you're not the center of anything. The universe is a very big place, and you're a comet just kind of burning through, or maybe you're a planet stuck in orbit, but you are not the center of you're
Yeah.
not the sun.
Well,
Sorry.
I don't think since you grew up that way, you don't seem to me like you have a confidence problem, right? A self-esteem problem at all. So knowing that you weren't the number one doesn't seem to have impacted you in a negative way.
Well, look, it's a journey, right? I mean, I stuttered until I was well, I stuttered badly till I was 12, and then I stammered all the way till I was like 17. And I was very shy as a kid, remarkably shy. And uh, not a commentary on my parents at all. They were terrific in every way, but uh, I needed I needed another influence in my life when I was in high school. I had my grandfather who was next door, who built the house I was born in without a blueprint, who was a genius, and that's who Dirty Jobs was actually um, inspired by and dedicated to. And my parents, who were great, but I had no connection to the entertainment world and no interest in the entertainment world until a high school teacher named Fred King literally took me by the scruff of the neck and made me sing. Can't stutter when you sing. And as it turns out, I could carry a tune. And he kept me after school, and he taught me how to sing. And then he forced me to audition for a musical. Oh, it was a nightmare. And I told him, I said, look, I'm never going to get through these monologues. He said, you'll be fine. Get on stage. He put me on stage, this guy, and I got 20 seconds into a monologue. I'm kind of stammering along, and he says, Mikey, love what you're doing with the part, but the character you're playing, the character doesn't stutter. So you can do that Porky Pig stuff on your own time. Just do this without the stammer for me. And without thinking about it, I mean, it was an impossibly glib thing to say, but without thinking about it, I trusted him so much. I went back to the top and I did it without the stammer. And 20 seconds in, he looks at me like maybe you could choose to act like a guy who doesn't stutter if you don't want to stutter. And it was one of those like, oh. And so I I kind of chose to be somebody different,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
you know.
So like purposefully, right. You were like, I'm going to be this guy instead.
I'm going to be this guy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and then I started auditioning for all sorts of other things. I got in the opera. I sang for
Yeah.
8 years in the Baltimore Opera, you know, and that I wasn't on a path to do any of this, as a kid. I just wasn't. It it
Yeah.
it, it took a completely separate uh, force of nature to redirect me and then kick me in the ass.
Right. Okay. So back to my deep questions again. So personally, what's one of the lessons that you've kind of learned upon reflection about relationships? Like, did that one relationship teach you anything? I don't want to tell you what the lesson was, but was there any lesson that you gleaned from or about relationships?
Yeah, you there's no such thing really as cheating on someone. We hear it all the time, and it's happened to most of us. But the person you really cheat on is yourself. And everything that follows that is symptomatic. That's an early lesson, and you realize it, and you either change your behavior as a result or you don't. Um,
That's a really interesting lesson and good advice. And lots of time. I think it applies to other things too, in a
it applies
sense.
to everything.
Right.
Look, I mean, Eleanor Roosevelt said, nobody can make you feel bad without your permission.
Right.
It's the same sort of thing. I
So is
was
this
talking.
you? I don't want to get too personal. Tell me if I am. Did this happen where you cheated on somebody else and then you learned that that was a mistake? There is more with Mike. Make sure you're subscribed. Tap that notifications bell so that you're notified as soon as the video is released. If you want to take a second to smash that like button, amazing. I'd love it. If you like this talk with Mike, I think you will love my talk with Jeremy Wade. Yes, Jeremy Wade of River Monsters. I put a link right up here, so you can just tap on that, or you can click on the link in the description below. I put one there too.